My name is Camille Hartley. 5 years ago, I was betrayed by my husband, lost my company, and became pregnant with quadruplets from the sperm he left behind. They thought I would crumble, but I did something no one saw coming. Before I share the full story, from a fake pregnancy to a shocking public takedown that shook Silicon Valley, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever fought through adversity for your family. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. The coffee maker gurgled its last drops into the carafe at 5:47 a.m. Same as every morning. But Brandon's mug sat untouched on the counter, a thin film already forming on its surface. I wrapped my fingers around my own cup, letting the warmth seep into my palms as I stared at his empty chair across the kitchen island. Another early meeting? I'd asked last night when he mentioned he'd be gone before dawn. AI conference call with Tokyo. He hadn't looked up from his laptop. You know how it is. I did know, or I thought I did. 3 years of building our company together, 5 years of marriage, and I knew every tell when Brandon was lying. The way his left eye twitched slightly, how he'd drum his fingers in a specific pattern. But lately, there were no tells, just absence. The Portland rain drummed against our floor-to-ceiling windows, blurring the city lights below. Our penthouse had been my design. Every carefully chosen piece of furniture, every splash of color on the walls. I'd poured myself into making this space ours. Now it felt like a museum to something already dead. My phone buzzed. Riley, hey cuz, in town for a conference? Coffee today? Haven't seen you in forever. Riley Monroe, my mother's sister's daughter, though we'd barely spoken since my wedding. She'd been living in San Francisco, working in tech like everyone else our age. I almost declined. I had 3 client presentations to prepare. But something made me type yes. Absolutely. Blue Star Donuts at 10? 3 dots appeared immediately. Perfect. Can't wait to catch up. I abandoned Brandon's cold coffee and headed to my studio. The converted bedroom held my real life. Easels, design boards, fabric swatches, paint-stained drop cloths. This was where I created, where I breathed, where I didn't think about my husband's growing distance or the way he'd stopped saying my name with any warmth. The morning light was perfect, gray and diffused through the rain. I lost myself in a new piece, abstract, angry reds bleeding into blacks. My hands moved without thought, layering paint like I was trying to bury something. When I finally looked at the clock, it was 9:45. I cleaned my brushes quickly, changed out of my paint-splattered clothes, and grabbed my keys. The drive to the donut shop took 12 minutes. I'd know. I'd designed their interior 2 years ago, back when Brandon used to come to my openings, when he'd hold my hand at client meetings and call me his secret weapon. Riley was already there, seated in the corner booth. She looked different. Sleeker, somehow. Her mousy brown hair now platinum blonde. Her clothes definitely not conference attire unless tech conferences had started requiring designer dresses. Camille! She stood, air kissing my cheeks like we were old friends instead of distant relatives who exchanged Christmas cards out of obligation. You look amazing. Marriage agrees with you. I slid into the booth. Thanks. You look different, good different. She laughed, a tinkling sound that seemed practiced. San Francisco's been good to me. Though honestly, I'm thinking of relocating. The city's getting old. To Portland? I signaled the waitress for coffee. Maybe. She stirred her latte, not meeting my eyes. How's Brandon? Still conquering the tech world? He's good. Busy. You know how startup life is. Oh, I know. Something flickered across her face. Actually, that's partly why I wanted to see you. I have some news, and I wanted you to hear it from me first. My stomach clenched. In my experience, conversations that started with, I wanted you to hear it from me, never ended well. What kind of news? Riley set down her spoon carefully, finally meeting my eyes. I've been seeing someone you know. The coffee shop sounds faded. The espresso machines hiss, the indie music, the chatter of other customers. All I could hear was my own heartbeat. Who? She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. Camille, I'm so sorry, but Brandon filed for divorce yesterday. We've been together for 6 months. The envelope sat between us like a live grenade. I stared at it, then at Riley's perfectly manicured hand still resting on top. 6 months, I repeated. The words felt foreign in my mouth. We didn't mean for it to happen. She leaned forward, eyes wide, with what she probably thought looked like sincerity. But when he reached out about potentially hiring me for the company, we just connected. Hiring you? My voice sounded strange, detached. What are you talking about? For the new AI ethics division. Didn't he tell you? I've been consulting for the past 8 months. 8 months. While I was choosing paint colors for our bedroom refresh. While I was planning his surprise birthday party. While I was lying next to him at night, wondering why he felt so far away. Get out. Camille, please, get out. I grabbed the envelope and stood. My hands weren't shaking. That would come later. Right now, I was carved from ice. Riley gathered her things, pausing before she left. The papers, there are some clauses about the company. Brandon's lawyer said you'd understand. After she left, I sat back down and opened the envelope. Legal documents, dense with text. My eyes caught phrases that made my blood freeze. Intellectual property transfer, sole ownership, waiver of claims. At the bottom, a sticky note in Brandon's handwriting. This is best for everyone. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. I drove home on autopilot, the envelope burning a hole in the passenger seat. Our building's doorman smiled at me. Did he know? Had he seen Riley coming and going? The elevator ride felt endless, my reflection in the mirrored walls showing a woman I didn't recognize. Composed, empty. The penthouse was silent. I set the envelope on the kitchen counter and poured myself a glass of wine. It was 11 a.m. I didn't care. My laptop sat open on the dining table, our company's dashboard still logged in. Flux Design, my brainchild, my baby. Built from nothing but an idea and endless late nights. Brandon had come in later, bringing tech expertise and investor connections. But the soul of it, the creative force, that was mine. I clicked through to the corporate documents. Everything looked normal until I reached the amended operating agreement from last year. The one Brandon had asked me to sign during our anniversary dinner. Just updating some technical language, he'd said, pouring more champagne. Nothing major. I'd signed it. Of course I had. You don't read fine print from the person who shares your bed. The new language was surgical in its precision. In the event of divorce, all intellectual property defaulted to the majority technical stakeholder. Voting shares redistributed based on technical contribution. Creative assets classified as work for hire. I wasn't just losing my husband. I was losing everything I'd built. My phone rang. My lawyer, Janet, who'd helped with our initial incorporation. Camille, I just got a call from Brandon's attorney. What the hell is going on? Apparently, my husband's been fucking my cousin and now wants to steal my company. The wine was making me bold. Silence. Then, come to my office. Bring everything. And Camille, don't sign anything else. The next 3 hours were a blur of legal speak and harsh realities. Janet's face grew grimmer with each document she reviewed. He's been planning this, she said finally. These amendments, the way they're structured, this is months of preparation. And with Riley listed as a consultant bringing in significant technical innovation, she's positioned to take your place as co-founder. Can we fight it? We can try, but Camille, he's got every major investor on his side. They've been having meetings without you for months. The board— What board? I interrupted. We don't have a board. Janet slid another paper across her desk. As of last month, you do, and you're not on it. I left Janet's office with a cardboard box of documents and a gnawing emptiness in my chest. She'd promised to file injunctions, to fight, but we both knew the truth. Brandon had played a long game, and I'd been too blind to see the board. That night, I sat in my studio, drinking wine straight from the bottle. My phone buzzed incessantly. Friends who'd heard, clients wondering about their projects, my mother leaving increasingly frantic voicemails. I ignored them all. Instead, I painted. Violent strokes of red and black, the canvas becoming a wound. Hours passed. The wine bottle emptied. Another opened. Somewhere around 2 a.m., I heard the front door. Brandon, finally, coming home. I didn't move from my stool. He appeared in the doorway, looking exactly as he always did. Pressed shirt, designer jeans, hair perfectly styled even at this hour. Camille, don't. I didn't look at him, kept painting. Just don't. I know you're upset. Upset? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. Is that what you think this is? Riley said she told you. I wanted to do it differently, but what? You were too busy fucking her to find the time? He stepped into the room. It's not like that. We fell in love. It happens. And the company? Did that just happen too? His silence told me everything. You used me, I said, finally turning to face him. Every idea, every design, every client relationship I built, you're taking it all. You'll be compensated fairly. The lawyers... I threw my wine glass. It shattered against the wall behind him, leaving a red stain like blood. Get out! This is my house too. Not anymore. I picked up a palette knife. Get out. He left. I heard him gathering things from the bedroom, the front door closing, then silence again. I abandoned the painting and went to our bedroom, my bedroom now. The walk-in closet still held his clothes, his cologne lingering in the air. I grabbed trash bags from the kitchen and started filling them. Armani suits, designer shoes, the watch I'd given him for our anniversary, all of it went in. In his home office, I looked for anything that might help my case. That's when I found it, tucked in a filing cabinet, medical records from a fertility clinic. Brandon had stored sperm there 2 years ago when we'd been trying to conceive, before the miscarriage, before he'd told me maybe we should focus on the company instead of children. The document included access codes, storage fees paid through the next 5 years. My hands shook as I photographed every page. By morning, I'd made a decision. If Brandon wanted to play dirty, if he wanted to take everything from me, then I'd take something too. Something he'd never see coming. 3 days later, I stood outside the Morrison Fertility Clinic, wearing a wig I'd bought with cash and sunglasses despite the Portland drizzle. My hands clutched a folder of forged documents. Amazingly easy to create when you had access to company letterhead and knew your soon-to-be ex-husband's signature better than your own. The receptionist barely glanced at my paperwork. Mrs. Whitaker, we have your husband's samples ready for the procedure. Will he be joining you today? He's traveling, Tokyo. The lie came easily. We discussed doing this while he's away, the timing with my cycle. She nodded sympathetically. Of course, Dr. Morrison will go over everything with you. What followed was 2 hours of medical speak, consent forms, and careful maneuvering. I'd done my research, found the clinic's security protocols, learned their verification process was laughably simple for married couples. One forged power of attorney, a few practiced signatures, and I was in. The success rate for IUI is typically 15 to 20% per cycle, Dr. Morrison explained. Though with your age and health history, I'm optimistic. What about multiple embryos? I heard myself asking. Twins run in my family. She smiled. We can discuss that if needed. For now, let's focus on achieving a pregnancy. I nodded, my mind already spinning. This was insane. Certifiably, undeniably insane. But as I lay on the examination table, all I could think about was Brandon's face when he'd held me after the miscarriage, how he'd whispered that we'd try again, that we'd have our family. Lies. All of it lies. The procedure itself was clinical, brief, 20 minutes that could change everything, or nothing. If it didn't work, no one would ever know how far I'd fallen. Rest for 15 minutes, then you're free to go, the nurse said. We'll schedule a follow-up in 2 weeks. I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting holes in the acoustic panels. What had I done? I drove east that night, leaving Portland in my rearview mirror. I'd liquidated what I could, sold jewelry, artwork, anything Brandon hadn't already locked down. The cash would last a few months if I was careful. The Montana mountains rose before me like a promise. I'd found the cabin on Craigslist, a former artist's retreat outside Whitefish, available for immediate occupancy. Cash only. Perfect for disappearing. The owner met me at a gas station, an elderly native woman named Maiva, with eyes that seemed to see through my disguise. Running from something? She asked as she handed over the keys. Starting over, I corrected. She studied me for a long moment. Same thing sometimes. The cabin's got everything you need. Town's 20 minutes down the mountain. Cell service is spotty. That's fine. I live in the main house, quarter-mile up the road. Used to be a midwife. Still help folks when needed. She paused. You look like you might need help. I almost broke down then. Almost told this stranger everything. Instead, I just nodded. The cabin was perfect. One room with a sleeping loft, a wood stove, windows overlooking the valley. I unpacked my meager belongings, clothes, art supplies, and the pregnancy tests I'd bought at 3 different stores. 2 weeks later, I sat on the cabin floor, staring at 5 positive tests lined up on the coffee table. My period was late, my breasts were tender, and apparently I was pregnant with my soon-to-be ex-husband's stolen child. I laughed until I cried, then cried until I couldn't breathe. Maeva found me like that, having walked down to check on me. Honey, she said, gathering me into her arms. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. Quadruplets. The word hung in the air of the small mountain clinic. The ultrasound tech looked as shocked as I felt, calling for the doctor to confirm. 4 heartbeats flickered on the screen like Morse code. This is highly unusual, Dr. Chen said carefully. With your history and the high-risk nature of multiple gestation, we need to discuss your options. Options? Reduction? Risks? The words washed over me as I stared at those 4 pulsing lights. 4. Not one desperate gamble, but 4 lives growing inside me. Maeva drove me home in silence, occasionally reaching over to squeeze my hand. Back at the cabin, she made tea while I sat stunned on the couch. Never seen quads in all my years, she said finally. Course, I've seen stranger things. Woman's body does what it wants sometimes. What am I going to do? What do you want to do? I thought about Brandon, probably in bed with Riley right now in our penthouse, about my company being stripped away, my life's work stolen, about these 4 impossible heartbeats. I want to keep them, all of them. Maeva nodded like she'd expected nothing less. Then that's what we do. I'll move you up to the main house. You'll need watching. The next months blurred together in a haze of morning sickness, expanding belly, and legal documents arriving at a P.O. box in town. Janet fought valiantly, but each email brought worse news. The board had voted. The intellectual property transfers were upheld. My designs were being rebranded under Riley's name as creative director. I channeled my rage into evidence gathering. Late nights on my laptop, using skills learned from years of client research to dig into Brandon and Riley's digital footprints. Screenshots of backdated contracts, emails showing investor meetings I was deliberately excluded from. Riley's false credentials. She'd never worked in AI ethics, had barely finished her communications degree. My journal grew thick with documentation. Not for court. That ship had sailed. But for something else. Something bigger. You planning revenge? Maeva asked one night, finding me hunched over my laptop at 3 a.m., belly so swollen I could barely reach the keyboard. Justice? I corrected. She set down a plate of food. Just remember, you got 4 reasons to think beyond revenge now. She was right. The babies moved constantly, a churning sea inside me. I'd started talking to them, telling them stories about who they were, who they'd become. Not Brandon's children. Mine. Your father won't know you, I whispered one night, hand on my belly. But maybe that's a gift. You'll never learn to lie like he does. Never learn to take what isn't yours. Week 30 brought complications. Blood pressure spikes, contractions that sent us racing to the hospital. Bed rest, they ordered. Maeva turned the main house into a medical ward. Blood pressure cuffs, fetal monitors, everything needed to keep us out of the hospital. Why are you doing this? I asked her one afternoon as she checked my vitals. She was quiet for a long moment. Had a daughter once, smart like you. Trusted the wrong man, lost everything. Except she didn't have anyone to catch her when she fell. Her voice roughened. Found her in the barn. Been 23 years, but a mother doesn't forget. We sat in silence, her loss and mine intertwining. She would have loved you, Maeva said finally. Stubborn as hell, just like you. That night, I felt the first real contraction. Too soon. Week 32 was too soon. But my body had decided, and within hours I was deep in labor. Maeva transformed into the midwife she'd been, calling in a favor from a retired OB who lived 2 towns over. "Hospital's an hour away," she said calmly as another contraction hit. "These babies are coming now. You ready?" I wasn't. No one could be ready for this. For birthing 4 humans in a cabin in Montana. For doing it without epidurals or NICU teams standing by. But my body didn't care about ready. 16 hours later, they were here. 4 perfect, tiny souls. 3 boys, 1 girl. The smallest, barely 4 pounds. The largest, just over 5. "They're fighters," Maiva whispered, helping me hold all 4 against my chest. "Like their mama." I named them in the exhausted haze of dawn. Gabriel, Marcus, Julian, and Sophia. No middle names. No father's name on the birth certificates. Just mine. The invitation arrived when the babies were 6 months old. Cream cardstock, gold embossing, Riley's attempt at elegance. Brandon Whitaker and Riley Monroe. Request the honor of your presence at their wedding celebration, Napa Valley. Of course, a vineyard wedding for the couple who'd stolen everything. The date was circled in red. Clearly Riley's personal touch, making sure I knew exactly when my replacement would be official. I sat in Maiva's kitchen, babies in their bouncers, staring at the invitation. She read it over my shoulder. "Tacky," she pronounced. "Sending that to you?" "It's a power play." I turned the card over. A handwritten note. "Hope you can be happy for us." "Are you going?" The question surprised me. "Why would I go?" "To show them they didn't break you." Maiva lifted Gabriel from his bouncer. "Though Lord knows how we'd transport 4 babies to California." But the seed was planted. Over the next weeks, as I pumped milk and changed diapers and soothed crying infants, the plan formed. Not just to go, to arrive with purpose. I contacted Dean Morrison, my only friend from the Portland art scene who'd stayed in touch. Investigative journalist who'd always flirted with me at gallery openings, who'd sent supportive messages when news of the divorce went public. "I have a story for you," I told him over a crackling phone connection, "but I need your help with timing." What followed was 2 months of careful orchestration. Dean dug deeper into Brandon and Riley's deceptions, uncovering more than even I'd known. Shell companies, investor fraud, Riley's fake pregnancy announcement to secure board sympathy, complete with falsified ultrasounds she'd posted on the company's internal channels. "She's not pregnant," Dean confirmed. "The clinic she claimed to use has no record of her, but she's been wearing progressively larger fake bumps at investor meetings." "Of course she has." I looked at my own babies, real and demanding and perfect. She always did want everything I had. We timed everything perfectly. Dean would publish the exposé on the wedding day, but not until I gave the signal. The legal documents were prepared. Custody papers acknowledging Brandon as the father, intellectual property claims, evidence of fraud. The drive to Napa took 2 days with 4 infants. Maiva insisted on coming, bringing her friend Rosa, another former midwife. 3 women, 4 babies, and a minivan full of equipment. We looked like a traveling circus. "You sure about this?" Maiva asked as we neared the vineyard. "No," I admitted, "but I'm doing it anyway." We'd booked rooms at a motel outside town. The morning of the wedding, I put on the only nice dress that still fit, gray silk that had survived my pregnancy. The babies wore matching white outfits. They looked like angels. The vineyard was exactly what I'd expected. Hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on Riley's fantasy wedding. Tech elite mingling with champagne, a string quartet playing, flowers everywhere. Security tried to stop us at the entrance. "I'm on the list," I said calmly. "Camille Hartley, the groom's ex-wife." They radioed someone. Confusion, more radio calls. Finally, they let us through, probably because no one could imagine why someone would crash a wedding with 4 infants. The ceremony was starting as we made our way through the crowd. Whispers followed our strange processional. 3 women pushing 2 double strollers, babies beginning to fuss from the disruption of their schedule. I saw the moment Brandon noticed us. He was at the altar. Riley beside him in a dress that probably cost more than most people's cars, her fake pregnancy bump prominent under the designer lace. His face went white, then red, his mouth opening and closing like a landed fish. Riley followed his gaze. Her perfectly painted lips formed a small O of shock. The officiant droned on, unaware of the drama unfolding. "Stop," I said. Not loudly, but in the silence of the moment, it carried. Every head turned. The photographer's camera clicked rapidly, sensing the story. I walked forward, leaving Maiva and Rosa with the strollers. "I'm sorry to interrupt," I said, though I wasn't sorry at all. "But the father of my children should probably know they exist." The silence was absolute. Then Brandon found his voice. "Camille, what are you—" I pulled the envelope from my bag. "DNA results, birth certificates, custody papers. 6 months ago, you tried to erase me. Take everything I built, everything I loved, but you forgot something." I handed him the envelope. His hand shook as he opened it. "4?" he whispered, staring at the birth certificates. "Quadruplets," I confirmed. "Your children. Though you'll understand if I'm not eager to share custody with someone who commits fraud." "This is insane!" Riley shrieked. "Security!" "I'd be quiet if I were you." I turned to her, voice steady. "Unless you want everyone here to know about your fake pregnancy. Tell me, Riley, how are you planning to explain when no baby arrived?" The crowd erupted. Phones appeared, recording everything. Riley's hand went to her fake bump, and in her panic, she pressed too hard. The prosthetic shifted visibly under her dress. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "Is that—" Dean chose that moment perfectly. I felt my phone buzz. The article was live. Around the garden, other phones began buzzing as the tech elite received news alerts. "Brandon Whitaker. How Silicon Valley's rising star built an empire on lies," I heard someone read aloud. Brandon grabbed my arm. "You vindictive bitch. You think this changes anything? I'll bury you in court. You'll never—" "Brandon!" Maiva's voice cut through his threats. She'd approached with Gabriel in her arms. "You might want to hold your son before you threaten his mother." He stared at the baby. His eyes, his nose, unmistakable even at 6 months. His grip on my arm loosened. "I don't— How did you— You stored sperm," I said simply. "For our future family. Remember? Before you decided Riley was a better investment." The wedding was in chaos. Investors storming toward Brandon, demanding answers. Riley ripping off her fake bump, screaming at everyone and no one. The string quartet had stopped playing, watching the drama unfold with everyone else. I walked back to my children, gathered them close. Sophia was crying, overwhelmed by the noise and confusion. I lifted her out, holding her against my chest. "Shh, baby girl, we're leaving now. We did what we came to do." The aftermath was swift and brutal. By evening, #WeddingGate was trending. Dean's article had been shared thousands of times, each revelation more damaging than the last. Videos of Riley's prosthetic bump shifting, of Brandon's face when he saw his children, of investors fleeing the reception, all of it went viral. We drove through the night, babies sleeping in their car seats, Maiva and Rosa taking turns at the wheel. I sat in the back between the infant carriers, watching my phone explode with notifications. Janet called repeatedly. Brandon was demanding paternity tests, threatening kidnapping charges, grasping at any leverage. "Let him," I told her. "I have receipts for everything, including the fertility clinic's security footage of me signing his name." "Camille, that's fraud. You could—" "So is stealing a company. So is fake pregnancy to manipulate investors. Want to bet who a jury sympathizes with?" By the time we reached Montana, Brandon's world had imploded. The board voted him out. Investors pulled funding. Several were pursuing criminal charges for the fraudulent reports Riley had filed. Our company, my company, was in receivership. Riley fared worse. Her family disowned her publicly. The tech community blacklisted her overnight. Someone leaked her college transcripts showing she'd been expelled for plagiarism before finishing her degree elsewhere. Every lie unraveled at once. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just exhaustion and the bone-deep need to hold my babies close. Winter came early to Montana. The babies grew stronger, their personalities emerging. Gabriel serious and watchful, Marcus loud and demanding, Julian sweet and easygoing, Sophia fierce and determined. I painted during their naps, abstract pieces full of white space and possibility. Brandon's letters started arriving in November. Not through lawyers, handwritten, desperate things. I want to see them. They're my children, too. Please, Camille. I know I destroyed us, but don't punish them. I burned the first few. Then I started saving them, adding them to my documentation. Evidence of his acknowledgement, his admission of paternity. My lawyer's idea. He's broke, Janet informed me during a December call. The investors are taking everything. The penthouse, the cars, the accounts. Riley left him for some crypto guy in Miami. Good for her. Camille, Janet's voice was careful. He's asking for supervised visitation. Just once. He wants to meet them before he loses everything. I looked out at the snow-covered mountains, at my Ava teaching Sophia to stack blocks, at my boys napping in their swings. No, I said. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Spring arrived slowly, melting snow revealing the green beneath. The babies were walking now, toddling around Maiva's living room like tiny drunk sailors. I'd started selling paintings again, small pieces to galleries that remembered my work from before, enough to contribute to expenses, to feel like myself again. The letter from Brandon came on a Tuesday, different from the others, typed, formal, included a photograph. It was him, standing in what looked like a sparse apartment, holding a sign, Flux Design Community Center. Behind him, young artists worked at easels. Camille, I know you'll probably throw this away like the others, but I wanted you to know, I'm trying to rebuild something worth showing them someday. The community center is in East Portland, the neighborhood where you wanted to put that after-school program. Remember? I teach business basics to artists now, for free, trying to help them avoid partners like I was. The investors took everything except one thing, the patent for the design software you created. It's yours. Always was, apparently. My lawyer says you hid it in subsidiaries I never knew about. You protected the one thing that mattered while I was busy stealing everything else. I dream about them. 4 faces I've never seen. Do they have your eyes, your smile, your brilliant, stubborn mind? I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just wanted you to know I'm trying to earn the right to maybe, someday, be worth knowing. Brandon. I read it 3 times before showing Maiva. She studied the photograph with her reading glasses. Looks different, she observed, humbled. Broken, I corrected. Sometimes that's what it takes to rebuild right. That night, I sat with my journal, writing letters to my children for when they were older, about their father, their origin, the complicated truth of their existence. Not fairy tales, but not horror stories either. Just truth. Your father loved me once, I think. Or loved what I could give him. I loved him completely. Both can be true. What we did to each other was wrong. My theft answering his. Pain creating pain. But you 4, you're not revenge or mistakes or complications. You're the good that came from bad. The light after the burning. A year later, on a warm June morning, a reporter found us. Not for scandal. The world had moved on to other dramas. She wanted to write about women rebuilding after betrayal, about choosing motherhood on their own terms. Do you regret any of it? She asked, watching my children play in Maiva's garden. I thought about Brandon's letters, still arriving monthly, about Riley, who'd reportedly entered rehab after her 3rd public breakdown, about the company I'd built and lost and might rebuild differently. Regret's the wrong word, I said finally. Every choice led to them. How can I regret the path to my children? She nodded, writing. One last question. Would you ever let him meet them? I watched Sophia boss her brothers around, Gabriel helping Marcus with a puzzle, Julian picking flowers for Maiva. 4 small humans growing in the mountain air, loved and whole. Maybe, I admitted, when they're older, when they can decide for themselves who deserves their light. The interview ran with a photo. Me and Maiva and the children at sunset, mountains behind us. No names, no locations, just a mother's choice, redefining family after betrayal. Brandon saw it, of course. His letter came within days, just 2 lines. They're beautiful. The perfect parts of both of us, it seems. I kept that one. 5 years later, I stood in a Portland gallery, my first solo show since everything fell apart. The paintings told our story in abstract, dark canvases giving way to explosions of light, 4 small suns breaking through storms. Mommy, that's us! Sophia pointed at the centerpiece, 4 golden orbs rising from darkness. Very good, baby. I smoothed her hair, dark like mine, but with her father's curl. The boys were with Maiva, probably terrorizing her chickens. She'd insisted I take this trip, bring Sophia to see where we'd started. The gallery, my old client, one who'd stayed loyal, had welcomed me back like a prodigal daughter. These are powerful, a voice said behind me. The pain transformed into something hopeful. I turned. A woman, familiar, but changed. Riley. She looked smaller somehow. Humbler. The designer clothes replaced with simple jeans and a sweater. I won't cause a scene, she said quickly. I wanted to apologize. In person, for everything. Sophia pressed against my leg, sensing tension. I put a protective hand on her shoulder. Why now? Because I've been in therapy for 3 years. Because I can't move forward without acknowledging what I did. Because, she looked at Sophia, something breaking in her expression. Because you have what I pretended to have, and I finally understand the difference. We stood in awkward silence, years of hurt between us. Then Sophia, brave as always, stepped forward. Are you the one who made Mommy sad? Riley's eyes filled. Yes, I'm sorry. Mommy's not sad anymore, Sophia informed her. She has us now. The simple truth of it hung in the air. Riley nodded, wiping her eyes. I can see that. She turned to go, then paused. Camille? He keeps that photo from the article in his office, at the community center. Shows it to everyone who asks why he does what he does. After she left, Sophia tugged my hand. Who was that? Someone from before, I said. When Mommy lived here. Before us? Yes, baby. Before you made everything better. That night, in our hotel room, I made a decision. I pulled out my phone and typed a simple email. Brandon, the children know they have a father. They've seen pictures. When they're 7, if they ask, I'll tell them your name. If they want to write, I won't stop them. This isn't forgiveness. It's forward. Camille. His response came within minutes. Thank you. We flew home the next morning. Sophia chattering about the airplane, the city, the gallery. Back in Montana, the boys tumbled out of Maiva's truck, all talking at once about their adventures. Mama, we fed chickens. Julian got pecked. Did not. Did too. I gathered them all close, breathing in their little boy smell of dirt and sunshine. Maiva watched from the porch, smiling her knowing smile. Good trip? Good trip, I confirmed. That night, after bedtime stories and songs, after 4 sets of prayers to whoever listened, I sat on the porch with Maiva. The stars were brilliant in the Montana sky, no city lights to dim them. You did good, she said simply. Took something ugly and made it beautiful. We did good, I corrected. Couldn't have done any of this without you. She sipped her tea. Just gave you a place to land. You did the flying on your own. Inside, one of the boys called out. Bad dream, probably Marcus. I stood to go, then paused. Maiva, what was your daughter's name? She was quiet so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, Hope. Her name was Hope. That's beautiful. Yes, she said softly. It was. I went inside to comfort my son, thinking about Hope. How it could die and be reborn. How it could take the shape of 4 small hearts beating against all odds. How it could look like a woman rebuilding in the mountains, like another woman opening her home to strangers, like children growing strong and loved despite their complicated beginning. In his room, Marcus reached for me, tear-stained and sleepy. Mama, the shadows were scary. No shadows here, baby, I promised, holding him close. Just light, always light. Through the window, the mountains stood guard against the night. Solid, unchanging, like the love I'd built from the ruins of another life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The children would ask harder questions as they grew. Brandon would remain a ghost at the edges, waiting. The world would keep spinning with all its betrayals and beauties. But tonight, we were safe. We were whole. We were home. And in the end, that's all any of us can hope for. To take our inheritance of silence and pain and transform it into something worth passing on. 4 children who would never know the weight of being unwanted. A family built not on blood or law, but on choice and fierce protection. A story that began with destruction, but ended always with light. Sometimes, Losing everything is the only way to discover just how strong you truly are. They can betray you, steal everything you built, but they can never take your resilience, your motherhood, or your will to rise from the ashes. Remember, light doesn't come from perfection, but from the cracks you're brave enough to break through. If you've ever survived a betrayal, share your story, because someone out there needs to know they'll survive too.